We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. I never imagined that my life would turn into a battlefield of betrayal. My name is Adrian, and for the longest time, I believed in love, in loyalty, in the idea that a marriage built on trust could withstand anything. I was wrong. Lydia, my wife, my partner, the woman I once thought was my forever, was a liar, a cheat, and the worst part, she thought she could get away with it. I was the perfect husband. I never snooped through her phone, never questioned her nights out, never stopped her when she claimed she was working late. I believed in giving her space, in not being controlling. But maybe, just maybe, I had been too good, too trusting, because while I was at home thinking I had a faithful wife, she was out there spitting on our vows, sleeping with a man she swore was just a friend, and I was about to make them both regret it. It started with a scent. I was sitting on the couch, waiting for Lydia to come home, when she walked in smelling like sin. Expensive cologne, not mine. A scent I had never worn but recognized all too well. Damien's. He was the man I had warned her about. Her old friend, her work buddy, the man who always hovered a little too close, smiled a little too much, and looked at her like a man who wasn't just waiting. He was hunting. I had confronted Lydia before. She had laughed it off. You're overreacting. You're being paranoid. Damien is like a brother to me. A brother wouldn't leave his cologne on my wife's skin. She sauntered in, casual, as if she hadn't just spent hours in another man's arms. Hey, babe, she greeted, pressing a quick kiss to my cheek, the scent of him clinging to her like a goddamn confession. I forced a smile. Good night. She hesitated for just a fraction of a second before nodding. Yeah, just some drinks with the girls. A lie. I knew it, and I let her think I believed it. Because this time, I wasn't going to fight her about it. This time, I was going to watch her hang herself with her own lies. I followed her the next day. I wasn't proud of it, but the truth had to be exposed. She had told me she was going to a work meeting. I had kissed her goodbye, let her think she was slipping away unnoticed. But I was right behind her. She didn't go to work. She went to a hotel. With him. I watched from across the street, my heart a hammer in my chest. Lydia was smiling, laughing, looking at Damien the way she used to look at me. She grabbed his hand. He leaned in, and then they disappeared through the doors. I didn't need to see any more. She was mine, and yet, she had chosen to throw everything away. I turned and walked away, because from this moment on, I wasn't just her husband. I was her executioner. Revenge isn't just about payback. It's about making them feel what they made you feel. Lydia had made me feel powerless, small, humiliated. So now, I was going to take back my power. I started with our finances. Lydia depended on my income. She had always been reckless with money, and I had always covered for her. Not anymore. I transferred our joint accounts into my name, froze the credit card she had access to, made sure she had no way of funding her little secret life. Then, I started gathering evidence. Photographs, videos, screenshots of texts between her and Damien that she thought I would never see. I hired a private investigator, and when I got the video of them together, tangled in sheets that weren't ours, I felt nothing. No heartbreak, no sadness, only satisfaction. Because soon, Lydia was going to lose everything. I let her dig her own grave. She came home late again that night, eyes bright with whatever sick thrill she got from deceiving me. I played dumb, smiled, pretended I still adored her. Big meeting today? I asked. She nodded, pouring herself a glass of wine. Exhausting, she sighed. Liar. I wanted to laugh in her face, but I held it in, because I wasn't done with her yet. The real fun was just beginning. The first hit came when she tried to use her credit card, and it declined. She stormed into the house that evening, frustration etched onto her face. Adrian, my card's not working. The bank said something about it being frozen. I looked up from my book, feigning confusion. Really? That's weird. Maybe you should call them. She scoffed, pulling out her phone, completely unaware that this was just the first step. She still had Damien, though, and that thought should have bothered me. But I wasn't just going to take her down. I was going to take him down, too. Lydia had no idea that her world was about to collapse around her. For years, I had been her rock, her safety net, the man who always caught her when she stumbled. But what she didn't realize was that this time, I wasn't going to catch her. I was going to let her fall, and I would be the one pulling the ground out from beneath her feet. It started small. The morning after she had spent another late night at work, I made her coffee, just like I always did. But this time, I watched her closely as she sipped it, scrolling through her phone, her lips curving into a smirk as she typed something. I already knew who she was texting. Damien. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, her eyes lighting up as she read his reply. She didn't know that I had already hacked into her messages. She didn't know that I had seen everything. The "I miss you" text she sent when I was asleep beside her. The photos she had deleted before I could see them. The way she laughed at me, behind my back with the man she was sleeping with. He still has no idea. Honestly, I think he'd fall apart if he found out. Poor thing. She had called me a poor thing. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, forcing myself to stay calm. She thought she was untouchable. She thought I was weak. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. Lydia loved luxury. She thrived on expensive handbags, designer shoes, weekend getaways. She had never been good with money because she never had to be. I had always covered for her, paid off her debts, smoothed over her impulsive spending. Not anymore. I started with the accounts. She didn't notice right away. But when she did, I was ready for it. She was out shopping when her card declined for the first time. She tried again. Declined. Confused, she tried another card. Declined. The cashier gave her an awkward smile. "Do you have another method of payment?" Lydia flushed in embarrassment, pulling out her phone, her frustration boiling over. She called me immediately. "Adrian," she snapped the moment I picked up. "My cards aren't working." I leaned back in my office chair, my lips curving into a slow smile. "That's strange," I said smoothly. "Maybe you should call the bank." She huffed. "Did you do something?" I played dumb. "Why would I do something, Lydia?" Silence. For the first time, I caught her off guard. She was suspicious, but she still thought she had control. She had no idea that I had already drained every single account she had access to. I let her sit with that panic, because this was just the beginning. Lydia tried to play it cool for the next few days, but I could tell she was unraveling. She had to borrow money from her friends just to keep up appearances. And Damien? He wasn't stepping up. I had done my research. Damien wasn't the rich, successful man Lydia believed him to be. He was drowning in debt. So when Lydia turned to him for help, expecting him to be her knight in shining armor, she was sorely disappointed. She came home that night, looking like she had been crying. I watched her from across the kitchen, pretending not to notice as she poured herself a glass of wine with trembling hands. She didn't say a word, because for the first time, she was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, she had made a mistake. But it was too late. She had no idea how much worse it was going to get. Lydia had built her identity on being adored. She needed people to admire her, envy her, desire her. So what would happen if I took all of that away? I started leaking the truth. Slowly, subtly. At first, it was just whispers, a rumor here, a casual comment there. But soon, it spread like wildfire. Her coworkers began giving her strange looks. Her friends started distancing themselves. People who once flocked to her now avoided her like a disease. She couldn't understand why. And then, the breaking point. A single anonymous email, sent to her boss, with photo evidence of her affair. With Damien. In the hotel. During work hours. She was called into a meeting the next morning. She came home that night silent. She had lost her job. And the best part? She still didn't know that it was me. Lydia had always thought Damien would choose her. That if things went south, he would stand by her. But she had forgotten one crucial thing. Men like Damien don't love. They use. And when he realized she had nothing left to offer him, he did what I knew he would do. He'd dump her. No warning. No goodbye. She called him again and again and again. He never picked up. She sent desperate texts. He never replied. And when she went to his apartment, she found someone else there. Another woman. You see, Lydia wasn't special. She had been a game to him. A conquest. And now, she was nothing. The night Lydia came crawling back to me, I was ready. She knocked on the door like a ghost of her former self. Her makeup was smudged. Her hair unkempt. She looked broken. And I felt nothing. "Adrian," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please. I don't have anywhere else to go." I tilted my head, looking at her like she was a stranger. "Not my problem," I said. She flinched. "Please. I know I messed up. I made a mistake." I smirked. "Oh, I know." And now, I stepped forward, lowering my voice. "You get to live with it." Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she was truly afraid. because she realized something. I was never going to take her back. Lydia had always carried herself like a queen. She walked into rooms expecting people to admire her, adore her, worship her. She thrived on power, on control, on knowing that she had everyone wrapped around her little finger. But now, she was nothing. She had been reduced to a ghost of the woman she once was, hollow, desperate, barely holding herself together. And the worst part, she had no one to blame but herself. She had lost her job. Her finances were in ruins. Damien had tossed her aside like garbage, and the so-called friends who used to shower her with praise had suddenly gone silent. She had spent her whole life thinking she was untouchable, that she could do whatever she wanted and always land on her feet. But she had never expected to fall this hard. She had never expected to hit rock bottom. And now, as she sat alone in the cold silence of her empty apartment, she realized the ugliest truth of all. There was no one left to save her. Her fingers trembled as she gripped her phone, staring at the contact she had sworn she would never have to call again. Adrian, her husband, the man she had betrayed, the man she had laughed at behind his back, convinced that he would always be there for her, no matter what. The man who had proved her so wrong. She hesitated. She didn't deserve his help. She knew that, but she had no other choice. Tears blurred her vision as she took a deep breath and dialed his number. Lydia's hands were shaking as she pressed her phone to her ear. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, just as she thought he wouldn't answer, click. His voice was calm, cold, emotionless. Lydia, her breath hitched. She hadn't heard his voice in weeks, and it felt like a knife through her chest. She swallowed hard. Adrian, She hesitated. She wanted to say I'm sorry. She wanted to say I made a mistake. She wanted to say please help me. But she couldn't, because she knew that none of those words would mean anything to him anymore. Instead, her voice broke as she whispered, I don't have anywhere else to go. Silence. For a moment, she thought the call had dropped. Then, his voice, sharp as ice. That's not my problem. Her breath stilled. He wasn't angry. He wasn't sad. He was indifferent. And somehow, that was worse. Adrian, please, she begged. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but you don't get to beg now, Lydia, he cut in. Not after everything you did. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting back the sob that clawed at her throat. Just let me see you, she whispered. Please. One last time. Another pause. Then, finally he sighed. You want to see me? He murmured. Yes, she whispered desperately. Fine, he said, voice sharp. Come over. But don't expect anything from me. She nodded quickly, wiping at her tears. I won't. I just need to talk. Good, he said. Then let's talk. And then, the line went dead. The cab ride to Adrian's house felt like an eternity. Every street she passed felt like a ghost of her past, a reminder of the life she had once had, a life that she had destroyed with her own hands. By the time the car pulled up to the driveway, her hands were clammy, her stomach twisted into knots. She had never been this nervous before. Slowly, she stepped out, her legs feeling weak as she made her way to the front door. She hesitated, took a deep breath, and then she knocked. The door opened almost immediately, and there he was. Adrian. He looked different, stronger, colder, like a man who had moved on. Her heart shattered. He crossed his arms, staring at her with no warmth, no softness. Lydia. His tone was clipped. Say what you need to say. She swallowed, stepping inside. The house smelled the same, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Because it wasn't her home. She had given that up. And now, she had nothing. Lydia's voice trembled as she spoke. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. Adrian's expression didn't change. You're sorry, he repeated, his tone blank. She nodded quickly. Yes, I made a mistake, Adrian. I know that now. His lips curled into a humorless smile. You didn't make a mistake, Lydia, he said. You made a choice. Her breath hitched. I loved you, he continued. I gave you everything. And you threw it all away for what? A thrill? A cheap affair with a man who didn't even care about you. She flinched like he had struck her. Adrian, please. No, he snapped, his voice suddenly sharp. She froze. You don't get to come back here and beg for another chance, he hissed. You don't get to cry and act like a victim. You're not the one who was hurt, Lydia. I was. And guess what? His voice dropped to a low, dangerous whisper. I survived without you. Her chest tightened painfully. He had moved on. She had spent weeks drowning in regret, but he hadn't thought about her once. He took a step forward, his expression dark. Now get out. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, please don't do this. He just shook his head. I already did. And then, without another word, he shut the door in her face. Lydia stood frozen on the doorstep, her hands trembling as the weight of Adrian's rejection crushed her. For the first time in her life, she had no backup plan, no safety net, no one pick up the pieces. A sob tore from her throat as she staggered back from the door, her mind spinning in chaos. She had thought she could fix this. She had thought that, deep down, Adrian still loved her. But the truth was staring her in the face now. He was done with her. She turned, her vision blurred with tears as she walked to the street, feeling like a ghost in her own life. She had no idea where to go. Her apartment, it felt too empty, too cold. Her friends, they had abandoned her. Her family, they had warned her. And Damien? Her stomach twisted in shame at the very thought of him. He had never loved her. He had used her, just like she had used Adrian. And now, she was completely alone. She sat down on the curb, pressing her shaking hands to her face. How had it come to this? How had she lost everything? Her mind raced through the past, searching for the exact moment where it had all gone wrong. But deep down, she already knew. It had all started the moment she took Adrian for granted. And now, there was no going back. Lydia spent the next few days in a haze of misery. She barely ate. She barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Adrian's face, cold, unreadable, completely detached from her. It was worse than if he had screamed at her. It was worse than if he had hated her. Because hate still meant he cared. But Adrian, he didn't care at all. She checked her phone obsessively, hoping, praying, that he would reach out. But there was nothing. Not a single text. Not a single call. He was gone. For good. She had never thought that was possible. She had always believed that no matter what she did, Adrian would still love her. But she had been so wrong. She had broken him. And in the process, she had broken herself. Weeks passed. Then months. Lydia tried to rebuild, but it was impossible. She had burned too many bridges. No one in her old life wanted anything to do with her. And Adrian, he had moved on. She had heard about it through whispers. A new woman. Someone kind, gentle, someone who actually deserved him. The realization sent a fresh wave of agony through her. She had been so stupid, so blind. She had thrown away the only person who had ever truly loved her. And now, she was left with nothing but regret. One night, months later, Lydia sat alone in her apartment, staring at her phone. Her fingers hovered over Adrian's name. She knew he wouldn't answer, but she needed to hear his voice, even if it was just to tell her to go to hell. She took a deep breath and dialed. It rang. Once. Twice. Then, voicemail. She swallowed hard as the beep sounded, her voice shaking as she spoke. Adrian, I know you won't call me back. I know I don't deserve it. But I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I want anything from you. Not because I think you'll forgive me. But because I finally understand. She took a shaky breath. I understand what I lost. And I know I'll never get it back. Her voice cracked. I just hope you're happy. Because you deserve to be. More than anyone. A single tear slid down her cheek as she whispered, "Goodbye, Adrian." And then, she hung up. For the first time, she accepted that it was truly over. And that was the worst punishment of all.